There's always something we don't know, isn't there?
One should certainly hope so. Well, gentlemen, it has been an honor and a privilege.
Likewise, Doctor.
And if I grow to be half the man that you are, Clara Oswald, I shall be happy indeed.
That's right, aim high.
I won't remember this, will I?
The time streams are out of sync. You can't retain it. No.
So I won't remember that I tried to save Gallifrey rather than burn it. I have to live with that. But for now, for this moment, I am the Doctor again. Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. Once again, this is episode 35, and we are right off the heels of episode 34, and this is actually going out a little bit quicker than normal. We usually have about a week and a half between episodes, but we've had some breaking news over the last couple of days. Some good, some bad, some in between, maybe.
Isn't it just all bad?
Yeah. Well, we'll find out. And so let me say this. The voice you just heard is the other part of Discussing Who, Mr. Clarence Brown.
Hey, Kyle, how's it going, man? Good to be on again. And, talk a little news. A little breaking news has happened over the past few days.
Yeah, some, like you said, let's just say some bad, and some bad. So bad that our other partner in crime, Lee Shackelford, is not with us tonight. I think he's trying to digest what this news means. But we have brought with us, through time and space, Weeping Angels or no, someone who is a fan of Doctor Who and someone who actually contributed to our Christmas episode, Mr. Mark Wells. Hey, Mark.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. How about you?
Oh, I can't complain. I'm glad to be on the show. Sounds like it's going to be an interesting episode. So.
I think so, but I want to talk real quick before we get into the news. Tell everyone what you do. You've got a YouTube channel. You've got a website, Facebook. Tell everybody who might not know who Mark Wells is and what Dice Junkies is. Tell them what that is.
Yeah, so I do a YouTube channel. It's called Dice Junkies. It's me and a few friends. But yeah, so it's a gaming channel. We do tabletop gaming, PC gaming, and we just discuss stuff that's on our minds. So yeah, if y'all want to check that out, youtube.dicejunkies.com or dicejunkies.com. We're on Facebook as well. We try to spread ourselves out across the interwebs on different social media. So just type in Dice Junkies anywhere. I'm sure you'll find us.
Cool. And we've also got a link on our website as well, and we've got in the show notes all the links to what Mark just mentioned. So I've got a quick question, Mark. If you were to give yourself, how dedicated a fan of Doctor Who are you? How did you come by Doctor Who? And I know you that, like I said, I've heard through the grapevine you've got a tattoo of the Weeping Angels. So that's pretty die-hard. So tell me, how did you get into Doctor Who? How did you find Doctor Who?
Yeah, so actually in my family, the Weeping Angel tattoo that I have is not the first Doctor Who tattoo. My brother actually has a Dalek tattoo.
Wow.
And,
okay.
yeah. So but that's how I found out about Doctor Who. I was born in 1981, so I was born late in the Doctor Who world. But I grew up with brothers and a parent who was a fan of the show. We watched it on PBS growing up with like Blake Seven and several other shows. But yeah, so PBS was my source of Doctor Who growing up, and mostly it was the Fourth Doctor and the last of the old series that was shown on PBS, and then Sci-Fi Channel, and then I just ate up all the Doctor Who I could find because I loved the show growing up.
Cool. Yeah, that's the leg up that both of you guys have over me, because old classic Who, I have really no experience with it whatsoever, and it's really, I really got to catch up on that, because I feel like I'm missing a whole swath of things that I should know.
You really are. I mean, there's a whole level of understanding and appreciation that you're missing out.
Oh yeah, and like Mark, I caught some episodes on PBS when I was younger, but it's one of them things where you really don't know what you're watching, and it's about a doctor, and all these years later we're finding out all these details, and I just have to get on you guys' level.
So Mark, I think you've already answered this question, but I'm going to ask it again just for the sake of asking. Your favorite doctor, who is he?
Oh, Tom Baker. The Fourth was my first that I ever saw, and you just don't forget your first Doctor.
Exactly. And the same for me. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at a couch that has a long scarf that just looks just like a certain doctor's scarf. So, and on the mantel board, I'm looking and have 4 miniature TARDISes. So, so I have issues.
Yeah. No. Look, me and both my brothers begged my grandmother many, many years, like late 80s, when I was really young still, to knit us a scarf like Dr. Who. So all 3 of us, she knitted a scarf that I still have, because it's awesome.
That is awesome, man.
All right, so I'm going, since you told that, I'm going to tell a story that I don't think. Well, Clarence, you've never heard this one. I don't think even that I've told this one on Podshock, but I will tell it here now. When I was a kid, like probably 4, 5, 6 years old, my grandparents owned this little country mom and pop grocery store, and I don't know why my grandfather had a big, huge. Well, I guess I do know why he had this big, huge refrigerator box. Was probably because they bought a refrigerator. Well, my grandfather put me on a pedestal, and anything Kyle wanted, pretty much Kyle got. Well, at some point, I remember my grandfather. I think he either got paper or got paint or something, but I had a blue cardboard box at some point whenever I was a kid, about 4 or 5 years old. So,
wow.
So there you go. So when you said your grandmother's story, I was like, okay, well, now's a good time to tell that one.
Nice.
So let's get into the news. We've got some bad news that we'll talk about, but let's talk about other news before we get into that. Clarence, you had some news you wanted to share with us that may not be Doctor Who, but is news regardless. Tell us.
And I don't know if this is just news, but the Mississippi Comic-Con is getting a Power Ranger this year around, and they're going to have the original Blue Ranger, David Yost, is going to be coming to the Mississippi Comic-Con, and we just saw a certain Blue Ranger on the episode of Sherlock, and I know Cal has a certain disdain for the Power Rangers, so I thought I'd just put that out there that he's going to be here, and we're talking about going, and it'll be exciting to see him.
All right, so Mark, what do you think? Are you a Power Rangers fan?
I am not a Power Rangers fan at all. Like I don't care.
Oh man, don't be a hater, man. Don't be a hater.
Hey, for everybody that loves Power Rangers, I'm glad for them. I'm not hating. It's just not me.
No, I'm with you. It's not me either. Now, I will say the Power Rangers movie that they're coming out with is the first time that it actually didn't quite look so bad. But the old school stuff, nah, I can't deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, it did look bad, but it's still not something that's going to grab my attention.
No, I'm with you there. I'm with you. But Clarence, you can have your Blue Ranger all you want and be happy.
See, I was almost going to speak blasphemy and say that's how the classic Who feels to me, but I won't. I'll stay away from that.
Okay.
I'll stay away.
All right. Well, that hurt. Well, speaking of, since you brought that up, Clarence, let me say this. I know that you enjoyed watching Dawn of Justice, but, Batman, the movie with Ben Affleck, I hear that they're looking for a director now.
Yeah, which is funny because, a few years back, Affleck had this hit, was it Argo, which did gangbusters, won all type of awards or whatever. And man, he just can't seem to find his stride again. And I really don't know what it is. Is it just a superhero genre that's kind of stifling him? I don't know, but I think he had heavy influence in Batman v Superman to some extent. And it just, man, can Warner get it right? I don't know.
Yeah. Mark, what do you think? Or let me ask you this: have you even seen Dawn of Justice?
Is that the Batman versus Superman?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. No, I refuse to watch it. I can't stand Ben Affleck. If they need a director, what they need to do is get Kevin Smith to direct it, because that's the only person who's ever been able to put Ben Affleck on screen and actually make a decent movie.
Yeah, I remember when they first announced that he was going to play Batman, and of course the hate was wide and rampant. And and the actual product that they delivered didn't do him any more justice. But
you're giving so much emphasis to the word justice, but I realized I said the name wrong, and I'm going to channel Lee and for just a moment and say Dawn of Boredom. Yeah. And speaking of Dawn of Boredom, another member of the Justice League is being rewritten, their movie from square zero or from square one or starting point, that The Flash is being rewritten from the movie.
Yeah, that one is really surprising because, the vibe, I know I mentioned this before, but the vibe I got from the trailer of seeing the Flash on screen, and we saw a brief moment of him in Suicide Squad, but yeah, I really had high hopes for this movie, but the fact that it's starting over is kind of is not a good sign. And man, it's just the strikes keep coming at Warner Brothers, and it's just crazy. I don't know, or DC. It's just. Man, can they right the ship, Cal?
All right. Well, let me ask Mark a question. Mark, are you a comic book fan?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I've read a number of comic books. I'm not up to date at all. So, if you ask me what's going on in the recent world of comics, I don't know. But I'm a fan of all the recent Marvel movies. I think they've been doing a good job. So I'm a fan in that aspect.
All right. Well, let me tell you why I asked that question, and this is just my opinion here. But it seems to me that everything that Marvel is doing right in the cinematic world, they're doing wrong in the books right now. And as the reverse, DC, everything they're doing right in the books, they're doing wrong in the movies. So it's like they just kind of need to, tilt. One ship needs to tilt another direction. The other ship needs to tilt in another direction, because the Marvel books are like really boring to me right now.
Yeah, I've gathered that from listening to some of your previous episodes, because I do listen to them all. And yeah, man, that the Marvel series you were going over in one episode just sounded horrid.
And what's sad is the Marvel characters are the ones that you would think, or I would think, that I would be the most invested in, that I want to be. Because back when we were young, the DC, they were here comes Superman to save the day, or something like that, up and away, whereas Marvel was so realistic, and now it's just like, So.
Well, do you think it could be that we're just getting from the whole formation of the MCU, do you think it's just an overload of Marvel, and maybe DC is just what's novel and less explored at this point?
No, because I'm looking at it in my mind right now from the books versus the books. And if I look at it from the book level, I'm looking at it and saying, these are characters that I'm reading Superman and looking forward to reading Superman. I'm picking up X-Men and going, okay, whatever. And that's, if you would have said when I was 14, 15 years old that I would be more excited to read Superman than X-Men, I would have laughed at you.
So Mark, real quick, I want to ask you from a tabletop gaming perspective. Are there many superhero or Marvel or DC themed games out there that you play or recommend?
Oh, now as a board game or a card game, if you haven't played Marvel's Legendary card game, it's a deck building game. It is a awesome game. It's also it's one of the few games that is co-op. So you don't have that group, just hating on each other type of mentality. If you have a very aggressive group, you actually work as a team, which is a really cool. It's probably the best Marvel themed game I've played, or superhero themed game I've played.
Cool. That sounds interesting. Definitely would like to check that out. What was the name of that one more time?
It's Marvel Legendary.
Marvel Legendary. Cool.
All right, Clarence, I know you're into gaming as well. So have you ever played like any of the Marvel Capcom or any of the Marvel role-playing games or any of those?
Yeah, funny you should mention that, because I think, was it late last year they announced a new Marvel versus Capcom, which is like a highly popular fighting game that's been out it's been out forever, and they keep reiterating it. And I think this is the fourth version that they announced. But oddly enough, guess who's missing from the Marvel side? And I know you're going to be right on the point with this. I
have no idea who.
What have we talked about in the comic book world?
Fantastic Four.
Well, no. The X-Men.
Missing.
Like missing. Yeah, the characters they've announced. Well, they're missing from the game. So the characters they've announced are more in line with the MCU characters versus the classic Marvel versus Capcom games. Have people like Wolverine, Storm, Cyclops. And it looks like to be that those characters are going to be absent from the next game that's coming out. And I think that kind of falls in line with what we were talking about on other shows about how Disney is kind of pushing out the characters that they don't have control over. And it's just permeating to the game itself.
And the question then begs to differ, or begs to be asked, which is, in the long game, are you hurting yourself by, dismissing the source material that obviously there are fans for?
Yeah, I mean, because I remember like Wolverine is like one of the most popular characters on that game, and if people like Wolverine and Cyclops is not going to be in it, it sounds like a big misstep.
Interesting. All right, cool. All right, well, Mark or Clarence, do either of you have any other news that you could think of?
No, nothing other than the main topic.
All right. Well, let's talk about something that we found out about over the weekend, which was, unexpected. Well, both parts of our news or our main topics today was unexpected. But the first is, very sad. It is the passing of John Hurt, or Sir John Hurt, who, as we know, played many other things than the War Doctor. But for me, my knowledge of John Hurt, of really getting into who is John Hurt, was seeing him and seeing him turn around and hearing, or seeing it on the screen, John Hurt as the Doctor. So, Mark, as a Doctor Who fan, give me your feedback.
Oh, I mean, it really stinks to see him go. I mean, I loved him as the War Doctor. He did a great job. I was really hoping that they could go back and maybe do some more stuff with him. So it's really sad to see him go, because now we know that it never happened.
Right. So, Clarence, how did you, considering that you're more of the new Who, you've admitted many times that you've not, even in this episode, seen a lot of the older stuff. So this is like one of your core doctors. Tell me, tell me about it. No.
No, it's funny because, he is one of the core doctors, but we don't see that much of him for a movie in part of one episode. And
the day and the night of the Doctor.
Yes.
The mini episode.
So, there's not a lot out there of him, but still I liked him as the War Doctor, and I think he played that role really, really well. I think he fit in perfectly. It's also I would have loved to see more of him as the War Doctor. I would also love to see more of a rejuvenated Paul McGann playing, not related to that whole movie that came out. So just as far as being one of the core doctors in the new Who, it's just sad to see him go. And I'm trying to think of other things that I've seen him in that I may not have realized. I'm looking through Wikipedia. I think he was
he was in Aliens. That was the big one that.
Yeah, he was the one that the alien actually, came out of, wasn't it?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So that
and have you seen Spaceballs? That plays back on his scene in Aliens. They're in the cafe and it jumps out of them. So that was a great scene.
Yeah, he was in Harry Potter. He's the one who gave Harry his wand.
Yeah, the wand guy.
He was in Elephant Man. So he's been in a lot of stuff, or was in a lot of stuff before.
More recent. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but he did a really good job in Snowpiercer.
Oh yeah, that was a good movie. He was in Hellboy as well.
Oh really?
Yeah, Hellboy was a good one. Yeah.
And he seems to be, looking back at all these different versions of characters he plays, it was very quickly evident to me that he's one of these people who almost regenerates his look, because he looked so different for each particular character, regardless of whether his age was younger or older. But you take the person the way they had him made up of the guy that gave Harry Potter the wand versus the War Doctor. To me, It didn't even look like the same person.
Yeah, and I didn't realize he had been, living with pancreatic cancer for a while, and he was still working all through that. So yeah, it's just sad news, man.
Well, if you look back and you see when they brought Sarah Jane back in 2006, up through her death in 2009, 2010. If you go, or whatever year that, I think it was 2009, 2010, but regardless, up through her death, you go back and you look at her appearances, you can see that she was rather aging a little bit quickly, and now knowing that pretty much that entire time she was fighting cancer, and just no one knew about it. But you look at how she looked, you could tell, okay, her body was, going through things, because she aged very quickly in that 45-year period.
And is he, I'm trying to think of the doctors that have passed. Is he one of, how many have passed? 2, 3?
Well, we have William Hartnell has passed. John Pertwee has passed. There is, Patrick Troughton. He has passed now. We've got John Hurt has passed, and there's also the gentleman who played William Hartnell in The Five Doctors, Richard Hurndall. he's passed as well. So he's kind of like honorary mention because he actually played the first Doctor in the fifth Doctor, in the five Doctors. Yeah. Speaking of, have you ever seen, I'm sure you have, Mark, have you ever seen the five Doctors?
Oh, yes. I actually own a copy of it. So.
Cool. All right. Well, for this moment, regardless of what, John Hurt is the Doctor again. So, we're glad we got to see him as the Doctor. He kind of, as I think, a good way to put it maybe is he gave us the Doctor we never knew we needed. So there we go.
Huge surprise.
Well, and don't forget that, even though we didn't get any more shows from him, and we're not going to see that Doctor, he'll still live on. I mean, if you guys don't read the books, there's some really good books, or at least one. I read the Engines of War, which had to do with his Doctor, that was really good. And so there's always that opportunity that his stories will live on and that character.
True. And some of those books, I mean, I've read, some of them, and they're all, the ones that I've read are very good. Now, tell me if you did this, Mark, when you were reading, did you notice that this, how British English and American English, there are words that are spelt different? Did that make your brain want to explode when you were reading it, going, okay, no, you're spelling it wrong. Oh no, wait, that's the other way to spell it.
I'm sort of used to that because a lot of period stuff and that I read and fantasy and stuff use that older English style, and so you see a lot of words there. Plus, I grew up on British TV, so I'm also used to some of the words that we don't normally use that are into print. But it is a little off-throwing sometimes when you see a word, especially the words that they sound the same, they're used the same, but there's just like one letter difference can throw you off.
Right, exactly. All right, cool. All right, so let's go from some bad news into some breaking news. And, some people may say this is bad. Some people may say it's good. Some people may be indifferent. But we found out yesterday that Peter Capaldi will be leaving at the end of 2017. So, Mark, you're our guest on here tonight. You go first. What say ye?
I'm going to be sad to see him go. I'm really hoping for a great season because I don't think he's been able to really show his full potential as the Doctor in the last couple seasons. So I really hope he gets to stand out just really strong in this season as his last season. I love him as an actor, though. He does a really good job. The writing could be a little better, but he's a really good Doctor. I've enjoyed seeing him portray the Doctor.
All right, Clarence, what say ye?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Mark, but I love Capaldi as a Doctor, but it's just things around him that ruin it for me, and I just think he hasn't had the right opportunity to shine. Although he's been fantastic in a bunch of episodes, but it's just things like and me and Mark have talked about this before, like the guitar and the sonic shades and things like that. Just make some parts of him get on my nerves because it's just like they're doing these things that aren't necessary and make the Doctor more cheesy than cool, in my opinion. And it's just kind of, I don't know. I just hope he gets good episodes this season. And, I think we may be getting rid of him a little too soon. I would love to see him have at least 2 more seasons. To me, just 3 and out is a bit too soon.
It's going to be a rough change, too, because, we're not only losing Peter Capaldi as a Doctor, but we're also changing hands after this. So you're gonna have a lot of change. But my favorite part with Peter Capaldi as a Doctor was that episode where they're on the spaceship and he's having to read the cue cards to try to get the whole human emotion right, you know.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember which one that was. Is that was when they were in? That was the one where it was like after the flood or before the fall or something. I think.
Yeah, I think you're
before the flood.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. So let me ask you guys this: do we think that this was something that he chose to do, or something the BBC chose to do?
Well, I mean, if you listen to the broadcast now, I mean, it was broadcast on BBC 2, Radio 2. I mean, he says he was asked to stay, and he chose to leave because he didn't think he would be able to give his fullest to the show if he kept going, which I'm not sure what that means, but by his own words, he says it was his choice.
What do you think, Clarence?
I would have to think of the amount of scrutiny someone who portrays the Doctor will receive. And, I can't even begin to imagine, if the show is not as fun as it used to be, or if the show ratings are not as good as they have been in times past, what kind of pressure that could put on an actor. And, although Capaldi has, from the very beginning showed his love for the character, for the property, for the history of the show, man, I feel like in a lot of ways he's been catching a lot of flack. Him becoming the Doctor was a distinct change in mostly in age, in the nature of the character from what we've had from, Matt Smith and Tennant. He's much older. But he's as playful in a lot of ways, but you're moving away from that kind of heartthrob persona that Doctor Who had for those years, and you move into a totally different style. And maybe that alone was a lot for fans to grab along to and actually start to love. Which, we've had some, I think of Heaven Sent, that I want more episodes like that of Capaldi. Again, I just don't think he's had a true chance to shine as he could.
All right, so let me add this. Because I've asked you guys the questions and I'm not answering myself. So do I think he made the decision, or did they make the decision? Something tells me I think it was a little bit of both. And the reason I say that is he has made reference before in something that I read to the demands of being Doctor Who, not necessarily, the demands of what you said, which were valid, Clarence, about how if the ratings aren't well, that's on your back. You're the one that's the Doctor at the moment. But as in regards to, he is the oldest actor since William Hartnell, since the very first one, to be the age that he is. And just because they are not filming at a certain point doesn't mean that they're not publicity here, because this is all around the world that they are having to go here, be on this tour, be on that tour. And I'm sure it's pretty darn exhausting, as well as the physicality of, some of the things that you have to do, the stunts, the running, etc., and so forth. So, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like it might be that, but I still, in a lot of ways, think it's more centered around where they have built up the character over the last 10 years and the big departure he is from those other characters that you had. Again, like in his mannerisms and humor and playfulness, he is kind of in line with those characters. But look, I think that does play a huge role, and it makes me think, where will they go with the look of the next Doctor? Are they going to go for somebody older, or will they try to dip back into having? All
right, well, let me add this, and then I want to see what Mark thinks, if he agrees or disagrees. you've made reference to, the changes that they've had, or, not giving him his due because of either the writing or whatever. And now I know you are a big fan of Clara, that she was your favorite companion, et cetera, and so forth. However, a lot of the issues that I had with the Capaldi 12th Doctor came not from Capaldi 12th Doctor, but with Clara being a holdover from the Matt Smith Doctor, the 11th Doctor, and then it was, they kind of had the flirtation, the friendliness, and then, now she's got, she's got Danny Pink. Then, now so it was so much Clara focused that you didn't have Doctor focus. And I don't know, just the dynamic. I think if you would have had Bill come in or another companion come in at the time when Capaldi took over, I think this whole back and forth would have been different, because you wouldn't have had the how are we going to deal with Clara issue. And then you had the Clara's leaving. No, she's not. Clara's leaving. No, she's not kind of thing.
That was horrible.
So what do you think, Mark?
So with Clara, I liked Clara mostly. She was hot. But no, I didn't think she was bad. They did focus on her a little more than they did the Doctor at times. But I don't know. I think Clarence actually hit it a lot with the age. Now, being a fan of the older series, the age did not bother me. But several of my friends who only had the new series, especially several female friends, were not happy with the look of Peter Capaldi's Doctor and the age. I loved it. I actually thought that was a great change, and it was one of the reasons why I was so acceptive of him, is because I was glad to see that older, more mature Doctor with less of a love interest thing going on. I've not been a big fan of the love interest with the Doctor. So having a more mature Doctor, I really liked it, but I do believe it did alienate a lot of the newer fans.
Yep, I agree. So he's staying until Christmas. And I think one of the reasons that they went ahead and announced it is, since we now know that April 15th it will be the premiere, something tells me that they wanted to get ahead of leaking any names of any of the episodes, in case, some of the names of the episodes lead up to maybe a 2-part regeneration, meaning it starts in the finale and it ends, at the Christmas episode. So we know that my favorite villain / villainess will be back in season 10. So any speculation as to how the Doctor may say goodbye and regenerate?
I almost hate that it's going to be a Christmas episode that this happens in, just because the last couple of Christmas episodes have been so depressing. I was actually hoping for a happy Christmas episode this next one. But as far as how they do it, I have no clue. I try not to speculate too much on that stuff because I want to be surprised. So, it's something I definitely want to watch for and see if they hint to it in the series, but I don't want to make too many wild guesses.
Yep, I'm kind of there too. So, Clarence, what do you say?
Yeah, I agree, and it's even harder to gauge now that we've had kind of this soft reboot since we're having Bill come on, and it's going to be a new adventure for him, and I really don't know what this season will bring. So I just hope they do it right.
But you know what? It almost makes it a little bit more exciting in the fact of, you're building to something. There's a regeneration coming. And on top of that, you've got this new companion that you're about to meet. So you got that excitement building. But let me ask you this: do you guys see Bill as a one-season companion, or do you think she may stay on past this season?
I think they need to carry over something for the new seasons now.
Because I do remember, in 2010 when we went from, the End of Time Part 2, and you see, Geronimo, and then the next thing, even though he's crashing at the beginning, you had a new doctor, you had a new everything. And I remember actually thinking whenever I watched it, it was like, okay, this just feels like a different show. Didn't even feel like, it was like, wow, this is so different. This is not, my 10th Doctor, Doctor Who. This is so different. And then, within 5 or 6 episodes, just like, okay, cool, everything's cool again. But I just remember it was a very stark contrast. And so, Mark, I think you're right. You need to have that carryover. And, even if Bill leaves shortly thereafter, you need to have a little bit of carryover.
Well, I've always liked that interaction after a regeneration between the companion, because, there's even a personality change whenever he regenerates. And that companion is always like having to try to figure out, okay, this is the same guy, but he's got a different face and he doesn't act totally the same.
Yeah.
so it's always that shocked factor and that look on that companion's face. I think that always leads to some interesting stories and some interesting screenplays whenever there's a regeneration.
And on top of that, usually in that first episode after regeneration, and they played up this some in the since 2005, but Mark, go back to Castrovalva, where he's in the Zero Room for pretty much the entire story, and they're basically wheeling him around in this box everywhere they went. So there's so many variations of how they do the regeneration story or the post regeneration story. So I agree, it is nice to be able to see the difference.
And I wish that we could live in a day and age. I know it's just almost impossible with the internet and people coming to sets and taking pictures and all this stuff. But I would like to live in an age where we didn't know and it just happened. Of course, I've talked to you, Cal, about episodes, and you bring me on to Who, and I'm just thinking of the shock and awe of the end of that first New Who season and Bad Wolf and all this stuff, and seeing the regeneration I totally didn't know was coming, and also David Tennant, I don't want to go, I totally didn't see it coming because I didn't know I was watching episodes for the first time, and after I finally got caught up, it seems weird that this regeneration coming up and the last one, I knew when it was going to happen because they talked about it and leaked so much prior to the event actually happening. So I would hope that with this new direction and new production team that maybe we can get a regeneration where we don't know it's coming. I think that's kind of the surprise of television, and it's kind of a letdown when you kind of know it's coming in advance. Yeah,
but I don't think with this being as mainstream as it is now, I don't think unless the internet goes away that what you just said is possible. I mean,
yeah, it's probably true. Hey, man, Jon Snow came back and spoiled somebody. Sorry.
You know nothing, Jon Snow. Hey, he would make a good doctor.
No, please God, no.
See, then they could bring back, and then they could bring back his new companion. His new companion would be me, a Shilder. Then you could say, where have we seen them before? All right, so I'm going to ask one more proverbial question here. New Doctor, and they're already speculating here, and you know what? I'm just curious to ask the question. Is the new Doctor going to be a man, or is the new Doctor going to be a woman?
I'm hoping for a man like, I don't know how well I could handle that much of a change. It's just, I don't know. To me, the Doctor's persona has always been a man, and I know that I'm not trying to be sexist. So I don't want to sound sexist.
Watch your words here.
but I prefer a male Doctor. It's what I'm hoping for.
All right, Clarence, what say ye?
I think not having a male Doctor would vastly change the dynamic of the show, but we have said that we're getting a new direction, a new production team. So I don't know. I think it would be interesting. I think it may even be interesting to have a Doctor of a different race, you know. But I don't know if they're ready to make that jump.
You know, I think I think you will have a Doctor of a different race before you will have a Doctor of a different sex. You know, before they change, I think you would have a Doctor of a different race before you would have, you know, the Doctor be a woman. Which is ironic that I'm sitting here saying, "Oh well, I just love Missy," but on the flip side, you know, knowing that that's the Master, that she's the Master, but then also saying, "But I still want the Doctor to be a man."
Yeah. So you guys, have you been throwing around any names in your head yet? I can't really think anybody who I know would be a good Doctor right off. But anybody?
I have none.
I have none either. You know, I know they had mentioned Idris Elba, you know, the last time, you know, I think even when David Tennant left. So, which actually makes me pose this question. You know, from the Day of the Doctor where he says, you know, I never forget a face. And then the caretaker says, I know you don't. And in the years to come, you might find yourself revisiting a few, but just the old favorites. Any old favorites? Anybody?
Yeah. Well, here's my theory. We're going to have some huge timey-wimey event, which is going to upset the regeneration cycle, and every 2 episodes we're going to have an old Doctor come back and play the Doctor for a little while.
Well, here's a speculation, and I've said this either on this show or on Podshock, I'm not sure, but I know I've said this somewhere, and that is Chibnall right now is currently finishing up or has already finished production on the 3rd and final series of Broadchurch, starring David Tennant. I'm just saying.
Well,
just saying.
As much as we love Tennant, I think the ship is sailed.
So you don't see the 13th instead of 10th, the 13th?
No, not so much. I don't know.
Mark, what say ye?
I don't think they're going to pull back like that now.
You know, I'm curious. I don't think so either, but I think at some point, I think they will, and I would be curious to see whoever that actor, whoever she may be. I would be curious to see if they try to recreate the first time they were there, or if they try to take the role in a completely different regeneration or different direction. And, you know, just because they look the same, they could say, okay, well, you know, the Doctor's had all these experiences since the last time the Doctor looked like me, so, and I don't look the same anymore, so I'm going to play it totally different than the last time I was here. So who knows?
Oh, that would be so weird, though.
Yep, it would be weird, kind of weird. But, you know, what isn't weird is, Mark, we have had fun having you on. So I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Oh, I thoroughly enjoyed myself being on.
Good deal, good deal. So tell everybody once again kind of where they can locate the things that you do with Dice Junkies so that we can kind of direct them in your direction.
Well, like I said, you can go to dicejunkies.com. I mean, that's our website. It's not very well updated, but it does have all the links to the updated content. So you can go there to get. Also, you can find us on Facebook. Just search for Dice Junkies on there, as well as I've made a link that will redirect to the YouTube. You can just go to youtube.dicejunkies.com, and that brings you there. And we film. We pretty much release shows every week, so it's fun. We talk about geek stuff. We talk about everyday stuff and put our geek twist to it. We discuss tabletop gaming and as well as PC games and stuff. So it's fun. It's not for everybody. If you are afraid of some vulgarity, I am not the cleanest mouthed person when I'm on my show. I try to keep it clean on other people's show. So that just to warn you there. But we're happy to have you check us out. Anybody that does. And you can write comments what you think of our shows when you're there, and just tell them, put in the comments that you heard us on Dice Junkies. I mean, all that discussing who.
All right, so let me ask you a question, and this is something that Clarence and I have had this conversation before offline, which is it takes a while for me, and I think he agrees with this. It takes you a while to get used to hearing your own voice and listening back to it in production or listening back to it just in listening. You guys, however, take it to the next level and you do the video. So how do you get over, or how did you get over the idea of, okay, I can go to YouTube and see myself, not only hear myself, but see myself. How did you get over that?
Well, I was there, so I just don't watch it.
Okay.
No, like so when I go through and I do very little editing, so I don't have to watch too much of it. I throw that. Not, I mean, we like the show to be raw. We just, it's a straight cut. We don't tend to cut scenes, and you see this a lot in YouTube where people cut scenes and try to make the perfect cut. We're just a bunch of geeks and gamers just geeking out and talking about stuff and having fun and hoping people enjoy listening to us. I do. It is hard though. It's hard to listen to yourself and it's hard to watch yourself. I mean, I don't even like being in front of a camera. I mean, most of my childhood is not photographed because I refuse to be in front of a camera. But so many people in our past have enjoyed our conversations. Like, we'd go out to bars and start talking, and we'd start having people gather around us to listen to us. And I was like, all right, I got to find a way to put this out there for more people, because apparently people enjoy it. And we're just having fun and hoping we're doing something that people enjoy,
Cool. And that was just FYI, that was a very good answer. All right, so Clarence, I think you guys had a new episode of Tech Petition come out. So tell us what that was about and how anybody could find us or find.
You can just go to techpedition.com. That's TCHPDITION.com. And our last episode was about the Nintendo Switch event, so check that out. But I want to actually talk about the new episode of Relativity Podcast, episode 3, in which we learn Sophia is perfect. So check that out. That's a good episode. That is Lee's adventure, and I just had lots of fun listening to that. And it continues to be a great story. And anybody who loves radio drama, if you don't, you just like a good story, just go check it out. And it's loads of fun, and hopefully we have a new episode soon.
Yeah, and the good thing is you don't have to, this is not a 30-minute drama. This is a story, just to not give anything away. It is a story of two characters. One is set in one location, another, it is a space opera, and one's in another location. And it's the interaction between these two, and the individual episodes are around 10 minutes long. So I mean, you can quickly listen to this on your way to work, on your way home. And I agree with you, Clarence. The third episode actually was where I'm starting to try to speculate, what's going on here and form stuff in my mind of, ooh, I think I figured something out. So I'm looking forward to the next one.
If nothing else, Dr. Mason will keep you laughing. So,
yes, he will.
Yeah.
Yes, he will. All right. So tell us, how can people find Discussing Who?
It's at Discussing Who on all the popular platforms, Twitter, Facebook. That's at Discussing Who. You can go to our website, discussingwho.com, or leave us a voicemail, 805-850-DWHO, or send us an email, discussingwho@gmail.com.
All right, good deal. And you can, anyone listening can also find me on Doctor Who Podshock. We have been a little slow in the last year or in 2016 of getting some episodes out. We knew that there was no new Doctor Who, so we had some other things going on behind the scenes. We had some schedules kind to coordinate everyone, but we have got a new episode coming out anytime now. It's in post-production, episode 338. We are doing the review of The Return of Dr. Mysterio, and of course, 337 was Lee's perfect favorite episode when we did the moon base. And if you have any idea why 337 is Lee's favorite episode, check it out and you'll find out, and shoot us an email and say, hey, now I know why that was Lee's favorite episode. So episode 337 and 338 should be out anytime a Podshock. So there we go. Well, Mark, thank you again for coming on and talking about Capaldi and remembering John Hurt with us and talking with us. And Clarence, as always, it's been a pleasure. And I think with that, we are out of here.
You've been listening to the Discussing Who podcast. Discussing Who is made by fans for fans. No copyright infringement is intended. Show us you're fans of the show by liking us on Facebook, following us on Twitter. You can find us on the web at www.discussingwho.com. Want more Discussing Who? Find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Player FM, the Doctor Who Podshock Alliance, and more. Send us your feedback to discussingwho@gmail.com, or if you'd like, simply record a voice message and send that to us via your smartphone, tablet, or computer. We want to hear from you.